There are warning signs in life that whisper before they scream. Alex never imagined a simple friendship could turn into the most twisted nightmare of his life. It began so casually, just two people sharing jokes, coffee, and stories about success and dreams. Madison seemed charming, elegant, and always perfectly confident, like someone who had everything under control. She talked about deals, luxury events, and people in high places, and Alex believed most of it. Why wouldn't he? She looked the part, acted the part, and knew exactly how to gain trust. But beneath the polished smile was something darker, something carefully hidden. Small things felt strange, but Alex ignored them. A borrowed $20 she never mentioned again. A dinner she promised to pay for, but forgot her wallet. He brushed it off. He thought it was just human flaws. He didn't know. He was slowly walking into the biggest trap of his life. Madison called Alex on a Thursday evening, sounding more excited than he had ever heard her before. She said she had just closed a major business deal and wanted to celebrate, and of course, she wanted him to join. Alex hesitated for a second, unsure if he belonged in whatever fancy world Madison often talked about, but she insisted. She said, "Come on, this one's on me. I owe you at least a good dinner." He agreed. They arrived at a luxurious seafood restaurant with chandeliers, crisp white tablecloths, and waiters who stood so straight they looked like statues. Madison walked in as if she owned the place, greeting the server by name, though it was clear she had only been there once before. She ordered without even looking at the menu. Lobster, caviar, filet mignon, and a bottle of champagne that cost more than Alex's monthly rent. Alex quietly chose a simple pasta dish and water, feeling slightly out of place. Madison talked loudly about partnerships, investments, and international clients. People at nearby tables turned to look, half curious, half impressed. Alex noticed how natural she seemed, while painting that perfect image of success. But he also noticed something else. The way she avoided eye contact when the server confirmed the price of the champagne. The way she laughed a little too loudly, almost to cover up something. But he ignored it. After all, she had promised to pay. She lifted her glass and said, "To success, to loyalty, and to people who believe in me." Alex smiled and raised his glass of water. He listened as Madison talked about her plans to open an office in Miami, her upcoming trip to New York, and how she might hire him someday. He nodded, amused, not fully believing her but enjoying the performance. Then the bill arrived. The server placed it gently on the table, almost afraid of the reaction. Madison picked it up, glanced at it, and her smile faded for a split second before she put it back down. "Alex," she said slowly, "let's split this." Alex looked at her, confused. "I thought you said you were covering it," he replied. She leaned in and whispered, "Don't make a scene. This is what normal friends do." He shook his head. "I only ate pasta and water," he said, still calm. Madison's tone changed. "You're embarrassing me. Pay your half or I'm calling the police." Alex stared at her. He had never seen her this cold. People at the nearby tables noticed the tension. Madison pulled out her phone and waved it. "I'm serious. Either you pay or we settle this legally." Alex leaned back and said 5 words that changed everything. "Go ahead, call the police." Madison froze, not expecting that answer. She dialed. Alex sat calmly, not intimidated. The restaurant fell silent. When the officers arrived, everything shifted. They didn't look at Alex. They looked at Madison. They asked for her name. And within minutes, 3 arrest warrants appeared on their screens. Everyone heard the words, "Ma'am, you're under arrest." And just like that, the performance ended. The moment the officers placed their hands on Madison's shoulders, the entire restaurant shifted from silence to stunned disbelief. She tried to maintain her composure, but her eyes started darting around the room, searching for someone to defend her. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding," she insisted. He's the one refusing to pay. He's trying to scam me. One of the officers glanced at Alex, then back at her. Ma'am, this is not about the bill anymore. Please provide your ID. Madison hesitated. She fumbled through her purse, mumbling something about privacy violations. The officers exchanged a knowing look. That was the moment Alex realized something was very wrong. After several seconds that felt like minutes, she finally handed over her ID. The officer stepped aside, typed into his system, and within moments his expression changed. His voice became sharp and official. Madison Clark, you have 3 active warrants for fraud, restaurant theft, and identity manipulation across multiple states. The entire restaurant gasped, as if a secret had been unmasked in front of a live audience. Madison's confidence shattered. She tried to laugh it off. She said, "This must be an error. I work with attorneys. This is silly." But the officers were no longer listening. One began reading her rights, while the other called for a patrol vehicle. The restaurant manager approached cautiously. "I knew it," he said quietly. "She's been here before. Same trick, different date." Alex was speechless. He watched as the elegant, perfectly composed Madison turned into someone desperate and cornered. She turned to him and whispered harshly, "This is because you didn't play along. You ruined everything." Alex didn't respond. There was nothing to say. He had only defended himself, and the truth had done the rest. The officers escorted her toward the door. But before they left, they asked Alex to stay for questioning. He explained everything. How she had invited him, how she had promised to pay, and how she had threatened to call the police when he refused. The officers nodded, taking notes. One of them even sighed. She's been pulling this scheme for years, mostly targeting people who don't fight back. Alex asked, "So I wasn't the first?" The officer shook his head. Not even close. Outside, Madison was being placed in the back of the squad car. Her face was no longer elegant, controlled, or charismatic. It was angry, terrified, and exposed. As Alex walked out of the restaurant, the manager stopped him. "Do me a favor," he said. "Never ignore red flags. They don't disappear, they grow." Alex nodded. He went home that night, still processing everything. He thought it was over. He thought he would never see her again. He was wrong. 40 days passed after the restaurant incident, and Alex's life had nearly returned to normal. He didn't hear anything more about Madison, except a brief email from the police informing him that she had been granted bail while awaiting trial. He assumed she would disappear, or at least stay far away from him. But he was wrong. At exactly 6:02 a.m. on a cold Monday morning, someone began knocking violently on his door. Not knocking. Pounding. Alex opened it, still half asleep, and there she was. Madison. Standing in his doorway like a storm that had returned. Her hair was messy, her face pale, and her expression full of fury. Without greeting, she pointed at him and said, "You owe me $2,000, now." Alex blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" She took a step closer. "For legal fees. I told you I'd make you pay. You think this is over." Her voice was cold, almost trembling with anger. Alex remained calm. "You need to leave, right now." Madison's tone turned threatening. "To get out of this mess, I need money. You will help me, either voluntarily or through consequences." Alex stepped back and closed the door, locking it. He didn't say another word. She stayed outside for almost 10 minutes, yelling before finally storming off. The group chat quickly turned into a real support network. 7 people, all strangers to Alex a week earlier, now shared one thing in common. They had all been manipulated, stolen from, embarrassed, or emotionally damaged by Madison. Some had lost money. Others had lost much more. Their trust, their confidence, their peace of mind. One of them, a restaurant owner named Mark, revealed that Madison once ordered a lavish dinner for 6, claimed her assistant would bring the payment, and then simply disappeared. Another, a college student named Emma, said Madison had borrowed her laptop for an important meeting, only to pawn it for cash. A woman named Claire had the most shocking story. She had invested nearly $8,000 into what Madison claimed was a beauty startup, which turned out to exist only in Madison's imagination. The more they shared, the more the patterns became impossible to ignore. Same strategies, same fake confidence, same emotional manipulation, same stories about big deals, secured investments, and just a temporary problem with her accounts. One man in the group, Daniel, decided to take things further. He hired a private investigator, hoping to uncover the full truth. 3 weeks later, the report arrived, and it was worse than anyone expected. Madison didn't just have multiple fraud reports. She used 5 different identities. She had records in 3 other states. She owed money to landlords, small businesses, and even her own relatives. Alex read the report in silence. It felt surreal. The woman who once ordered lobster and champagne, while smiling like she owned the world, was now revealed as a serial con artist. She didn't just scam for money. She scammed for power, for attention, for the rush of control. The investigator's report was submitted to the police, who opened a broader case involving not just Alex, but all 7 victims. Madison's bail conditions were reviewed. And in one dramatic turn of events, she was arrested again. This time, not at a restaurant, but for violating her bail agreement and attempting to manipulate witnesses online. She didn't expect to see Alex again, but she did. Not in a restaurant, in a courtroom. The victims sat together in the back row, not as individuals, but as proof. Proof that her trail of lies had finally reached its end. When Madison walked into court, she looked different. Not glamorous, not powerful, just cornered. She glanced at Alex. He didn't look away. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. She had built her empire on silence. But now, silence was exactly what destroyed it. The courtroom felt less like a legal setting and more like a stage. Madison walked in dressed sharply, chin high, holding a stack of papers as if she were preparing to defend a multi-million-dollar corporation. Except she wasn't a lawyer. She had fired her attorney and chosen to represent herself. The judge raised an eyebrow when she announced that. "I don't need anyone to speak for me," she said confidently. "I know how to win. I've been winning my whole life." The victims watched silently from the back row. Alex sat among them, expression calm, steady, and detached. He was not there for revenge. He was there for truth. Madison began her defense. She stood before the courtroom and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am the real victim here. These people are not victims. They are a hunting group, a group that targets successful women and tries to ruin them." She spoke dramatically, packing across the floor like an actress delivering a monologue. The judge remained unamused. Madison's arguments were a strange mix of emotional speeches, conspiracy theories, and personal attacks. She accused the victims of jealousy, claimed Alex was obsessed with her, and insisted everyone else had volunteered their money out of admiration. At one point, she even said, "If I were truly a scammer, wouldn't I be somewhere enjoying the money instead of standing here?" The courtroom stayed silent, not because they believed her, but because the absurdity had stunned them into speechlessness. Things worsened when a witness stepped forward, a former colleague who claimed Madison had borrowed $50,000 promising to invest it and disappeared. During a recess, Madison was caught whispering to that witness, offering them $50 to just walk away and pretend this never happened. Security footage captured it. That single act instantly added a new charge: obstruction of justice. Her performance had officially collapsed. The judge's tone shifted from neutral to stern. He listed the charges: fraud, identity manipulation, harassment, and now obstruction of justice. Madison tried to interrupt, but the judge cut her off. "Sit down. This is not a stage. This is a court of law." As the verdict was read, Madison stood still, her confidence cracking. 18 months in jail. 3 years of probation. Mandatory registration as a documented fraud offender. And repayment to all 7 victims. In that moment, the courtroom was silent again. But this silence was different. Not stunned. Not confused. Just final. Madison didn't cry. She didn't speak. She didn't look at Alex or anyone else. She simply lowered her head. Reality had finally caught up to her. Alex walked out without hate, without anger. Just relieved. He didn't destroy her. She destroyed herself. One lie at a time. The courthouse chapter had ended, but the story didn't. For a while, life felt normal again. Alex went back to work, reconnected with friends, and started sleeping without checking his phone every hour. But peace never lasts long when someone like Madison is involved. 3 weeks after her sentencing, Alex's parents received a phone call from a woman claiming to be his cousin. She introduced herself as Taylor. She said she was urgently trying to gather money to help Alex. According to her, Alex had been secretly arrested for lying in court and was facing serious legal consequences. She said she needed $5,000 immediately to help him. His parents froze in shock. But something felt wrong. They hung up and called Alex. He told them the truth. He was fine. He had never heard of any cousin named Taylor. The next day, strange messages began appearing online. Anonymous posts claimed Alex had fabricated the entire case, that he had tricked the court, that he had framed an innocent woman. But the writing style looked familiar. It was emotional, manipulative. It sounded like Madison, only it wasn't her. She was already in custody. It was someone else. Someone close to her. A week later, it became clear. Taylor was Madison's cousin. She had taken it upon herself to fix the damage. She messaged Alex's coworkers, old classmates, even his landlord. She said Alex was a fraud. She created fake profiles, fake screenshots, fake voice notes. She even recorded voice messages pretending to cry, saying, "He ruined our family. Please help." But this time, Alex didn't panic. He had learned. He documented everything. He gathered messages, call logs, screenshots, and recordings. And this time, he reported it immediately. Within days, investigators tracked Taylor's calls and traced her actions. She had impersonated family members. She had spread false information. She had attempted cyber extortion. She had even tried showing up at Alex's workplace in disguise, claiming to be his sister. 2 weeks later, police arrested Taylor. Not just for harassment, but for attempted fraud, impersonation, and cyberstalking. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just said, "I was only trying to protect her." It was almost sad. Almost. After Taylor's arrest, police searched Madison's belongings again. In a dusty storage box, they found something chilling. Not money. Not jewelry. But a notebook. Dozens of pages. Dates, names, places, restaurants, amounts. A detailed logbook of years of scams. Written in neat handwriting. Titled Strategy Book. The total number was shocking. $273,000. 6 years. Multiple cities. Multiple identities. It was no longer just a small fraud case. It became a federal investigation. Her sentence could go up to 20 years. That night, sitting quietly by his window, Alex realized something. The story didn't begin at the fancy restaurant. It began long before. With small lies. Tiny manipulations. Little red flags that people ignored. He smiled to himself and thought, the warnings are always there. Some just whisper before they finally scream. The federal investigation officially opened, and suddenly Madison's story was no longer just about a dinner scam or unpaid bills. It became a case study in manipulation, digital deception, and emotional fraud. Her notebook, filled with carefully planned schemes, was now evidence, not just of what she had done, but of who she truly was. Alex sat in court one last time, not as a witness, not as a victim, but simply as someone who had chosen to face the truth. He looked at Madison, and for the first time he felt nothing. Not anger. Not fear. Just closure. Walking out of the courthouse, he understood something deeply. Red flags don't come in explosions. They come in whispers. In jokes that feel slightly off. In favors that never return. In charm that feels just a little too perfect. He didn't become harder. He became wiser. Because sometimes, survival isn't about being strong. It's about finally choosing to see what has been there all along.